All right, everyone, welcome back. Alex Goldman, Josh Patar, joined this morning by a regular of the show and a guest that we certainly always love to speak to, Coach Eric Nicksick. Eric, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Yeah, man,
Good,
can't
thank you, man.
complain, no complaints. So, look, let's get straight into it, man. So, obviously, this weekend we've got Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley coming up, and I wanted to get your thoughts because while it's easy to go to, this is the striker versus grappler matchup. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. I think both fighters have skills and across the board and certainly present threats, in every aspect of the game. Now, of course, certain fighters have certain more abilities in certain areas. Of course, Aljamain's probably the better grappler. Sean's the better striker. But do you think people are maybe oversimplifying this matchup a little bit to, just the very sort of bare bones striker versus grappler matchup?
Yeah, I think that it could always be an element, especially when you try to break down the fight to that capacity. But you have to give credit where credit's due, especially for a guy like Sean O'Malley, who I feel like uses his time off to kind of shore up those holes that he might have. And again, we haven't seen him fight, I think, right since the Piotr Jan fight, and he actually showed some good takedown defense, some good get ups, and things like that. But he's definitely going to have to shore up the fact that the way he gets up and giving his back up, those are the things what Aljo will look to exploit. But knowing Tim Welch and knowing the career that he has, you have to think, man, that this guy's probably been working on all those little things in the last 9 months, 10 months, before this matchup. So, I think these guys are well ahead of that right now, and they're smart. They're a smart camp.
Yeah, definitely. Eric, just first thing I want to touch on quickly is obviously it was massive news with Francis and Fury getting announced for late October. First thing I want to sort of ask, man, is obviously I know he was working with Mike Tyson in the lead up to this, as well as you guys as well. How have you seen his progression so far after working with Mike?
Mike was only out there for 2 days, so it was just kind of just like that pre-camp, get introduced to Mike, and I don't know what the capacity that we're going to have Mike throughout the entire camp, but anytime you get a guy like Mike Tyson involved, it's awesome. It's awesome. So him and Billy White was there. So Coach Billy and then Mike, and then we officially start camp on Monday. Like it's our 9-week start come Monday. So we like to get in before and try to get the cardio and get the the groundwork laid down and everything before. So when we hit camp, we're not trying to get in shape. We're already in shape. We're already ready to go. So we had our first sparring session on Friday actually. So we sparred, Monday. I'm sorry, Monday. So we moved around. Being out in Boston all these days from like in a Groundhog Day. Monday we sparred, and then he'll spar again today out in Vegas, and then we have a couple other guys lined up. So camp officially hits ground running on Monday. So it's awesome. Good, man. It's good to have Mike out there, and dude's a legend. It was crazy, like watching him, and he's super intense, and so it was fun, bro. It was definitely a fun experience.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, it's also been announced that Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya are definitely going ahead now for UFC 293 in Sydney. And, I speak for myself, and I'm sure Josh as well, that for our first UFC main event that we're going to be at live, it's certainly going to be a cracker. But, I wanted to ask you, obviously we fans, we kind of heard the rumblings that this was probably going to be the direction that they went in. But how long did you guys really know that, this was probably going to be the main event? Basically, how long has Sean had to sort of, begin his camp specifically for Israel?
Well, we didn't know officially by any regards, and we we had our sights set on us fighting Izzy no matter what the situation was, because we wanted to be prepared if it did end up happening this way. Like, we didn't want to be sitting around, twiddling our thumbs and not being able to prepare or get in shape and have an idea that we were fighting. And that was kind of the way it broke out. And then you saw Izzy on the post where he said, Dricus is out, Sean Strickland, you're in. And then everybody automatically assumed like, oh, Sean's got the fight. Well, there was a lot more stuff to come about. But in our mindset, the moment Sean beat a boost, it didn't really matter. Like, we knew Dricus or Whitaker could ultimately, get that spot. So, but our mindset was, hey man, we're going to stay training no matter what. We might even be the backup. So we had to stay ready, and we didn't want to be behind the 8 ball when it came to our preparation.
Definitely, Eric. On that fight itself, I know heading into the Alex Pineda fight with Sean, a lot was made afterwards of how he didn't sort of, use his wrestling very much in that fight, and he wanted to stand up, which ultimately we ended up getting that hilarious meme of him and like the lady from iCarly, and he's doing like this, but which was hilarious. But I wanted to know for this fight, obviously he's stylistically fighting a very similar fighter, in a guy like Israel, kickboxing background, everything like that. So do you think he will this time learn that mistake that he made against Alex, and look to utilize wrestling? Because I know Izzy has great takedown defense as well. Do you think he will try and utilize that wrestling? Is that the game plan, sort of, to utilize that more heading into this fight?
Well, you would hope that he listens, and I think Izzy, I feel is a lot smoother striker than Alex Pereira. I think Alex is very plotty, kind of stays in the middle. Doesn't use a lot of his stance switches and movements. He's just kind of in front of you. Whereas Izzy is, I think, more of a sniper. He sets better traps. I think his movement's cleaner. He moves in and out of stances much better. I just love watching the guy fight, to be honest with you, man. And, I think for us, we're going to have to create a lot more chaos, and that chaos needs to be, an MMA skill set. We're going to have to, score some takedowns. We're going to have to, put them against the cage. We're going to have to make this gritty and grimy, because, if you stay at length with Izzy, where he's great, especially in the center of the octagon, it's going to be a long night for us. So yeah, I think he's going to definitely better listen this time.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Eric, let's bring the focus on to Extreme Couture now. Obviously you guys have been making some, crazy developments just with the amount of fighters now that, coming out to you guys, whether for, full time or for parts of their camp. And, so I wanted to know from your perspective, is the plan for Extreme Couture to, for the next few years, just kind of keep doing what you guys have been doing? Or, are there any particular, exciting developments on the way that, you'd want to talk about, whether it's a new gym location or whatever it may be?
We've talked about expanding and doing some other things, but not necessarily for like the fight program. Maybe just for the capacity of just regular members and things like that, and keeping the Extreme Couture as our mothership, if you will, for the MMA program. But we're very fortunate, I think, in the regards of we're a big gym and a big team, and we have so many great coaches. And I think that allows us to have the opportunity to have a depth of a roster that we do, because I can only coach so many fighters. Dennis can only coach so many fighters. You got Eddie in there, Ray Sefo, Nate Pettit, Jake Shields, Jimmy Gifford. The list goes on. And then like Danny Davis, who is one of my fighters, who's now kind of been helping more and more in the coaching role. He's been a great asset to Sean Strickland. So we have coaches that are, or former fighters that are now turning over into these great coaches. And it really helps the gym a lot, because, there's guys in the gym that, they don't match my style and I don't match theirs. And that's okay. I don't want them to leave. I want them to be able to utilize other coaches, and they have other head coaches within the room. But those fighters are assets to other guys, like, for example, like Mads Burnell is a great featherweight in the Bellator division. He's a friend of mine. I don't coach him. I don't corner him. But if you're at a small gym or another team and you don't vibe with that main coach, they're more apt to leave. They're more apt to go to another gym. Whereas, like, he has his head coach, and that's Dennis Davis, and he hits pads with Nate Pettit and everything else. So having an asset like that, where you can keep guys in the gym, but they're okay training with other coaches, only makes the talent pool deeper and the roster deeper, and it really helps the team as an individual basis as well. So, I love what we have going on there. There's a lot of good things cooking, and we have, I was watching Tatiana's last fight. Like, she trains with Nate Pettit. She has her gym. Still works with Romy from Millennia, but she's a great asset to all the girls at Extreme Couture, and she's right there. I think she should be next in line for a title fight, to be honest with you.
Definitely. Eric, speaking on Sydney next month, I just sort of wanted to know, have you been to Australia before?
I have. I was in Adelaide with Brad, actually, when Brad fought Whitaker. I don't remember even how many years ago that was, but it was quite the trip.
Yeah, that was a while ago, man. So leading onto that was what is it sort of about Australia that you like and that sort of you're looking forward to? Because Sydney is a very nice place. I'm from Sydney originally, and there's some good spots down there. So, like Alex said, we're very much looking forward to actually covering the event as media for the first time. So, what sort of about Australia are you looking forward to?
Man, like I love the food.
Yeah.
I'm a food guy anywhere I
Yeah.
go. So, but
Hey,
the
we know
one
with
thing
that
I noticed,
barbecue.
yeah, for sure. The one thing that I noticed when I got to Australia, especially Adelaide, like a lot of the food was local, like off of the
Mhm.
farms and stuff
Yep.
like that through the hotel. I ate more food than I've ever eaten in my freaking life, and I lost weight. And
Wow.
I was like, I started like to notice like the way the food's processed, and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yep.
Um, I loved too being out there with Ray Steffo,
Mhm.
because he's obviously a legend, and it was cool like to be in like Ray's Islander environment,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
walking the streets and stuff, and
Yep.
everybody just kind of paying homage to Coach Ray and the legend that
Yep.
he is. So, and the Australian fan base was just a wealth of knowledge.
Yep.
Like they know their fighters, they know the people that are out there. They're very open, warm.
Yep.
They were. Obviously they're rooting for Whitaker, but they're very cool fan base. So,
Yeah.
I was in Sydney for like literally like a layover, so I
Yep.
didn't get to hang out too much there. So, I have a lot of friends that I've met over the years that live in Sydney. So I'm excited to get out there and see them, and get there for fight week. And I've only heard great things about Sydney, so I'm super
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure. Well, look, Eric, a couple of last ones from us. We don't want to keep you too long, but, last question from me anyway is, and it's a bit of a different one, but do you think as, the business part of mixed martial arts sort of grows, the sport becomes more international? I've spoken to fighters in the past, and I like to say that 10, 15 years ago, MMA sort of used to be our thing. It was a very sort of niche, underground kind of thing. But as the sport grows, do you think that the martial arts side of the sport is getting lost a little bit? So, that means, the best fighting the best, people essentially getting title shots or certain fights based on merit rather than popularity. How many tickets can you sell? Do you think that as the business grows, the martial art aspect of the sport is getting lost a little bit?
That's a good question, Alex. I think that it all kind of works itself out in the end. Like you figure out who's who and what's what in the cage. I think guys might be a little bit more fast tracked from time to time, but like my uncle always said in the weight room, like the iron never lies. Like
Mm.
like you'll know, and you'll come across that individual pretty quick if you've been fast tracked, or if there's a
Yep.
hole in your game, or you're not developing the way that you should be. But there's a very deep talent pool that I've noticed. Now that I've been in the game for almost 16 years now, it's crazy because kids aren't playing other sports. Kids are getting right into martial arts or jiu-jitsu or wrestling, and then they're getting into their striking. When I was coming up, it's like, hey, what'd you play? Football? You played
Mm.
basketball? You had these other sports. Kids these days, bro, this is all they're doing, and they're allocating all their time to mixed martial arts. So their development, to me, 10, 11, 12 years old, and they're doing things that we weren't doing at all at this level. So
Yeah.
I think the depth of talent and development is on a wider scale, because more and more skilled coaches and skilled fighters are now retiring and opening up gyms and spreading that knowledge throughout. Whereas we were coming up, there was very, very, very minimal schools that were worth their weight. So, but yeah, it's been a cool transformation to watch. Like I'm staying with Jay Haran,
Mhm.
who's like my big brother and the legend of the game. We were just actually talking about that a couple of days ago. Just the way the game's been evolving and
Mm.
changing is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. Eric, last question, man, is I don't know if you're much of a superstitious person. I am a little bit, and I sort of wanted to tell you that the last time there was a 93 in the UFC card numbers was UFC 193, and I don't know if you remember, but that was actually in Australia, and it was Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm. That night, obviously, Holly Holm shocked the world and defeated Ronda Rousey, and now we have UFC 293 with Sean Strickland looking to do the same and shock the world. What about Sean and his style and his mentality makes you believe that he can shock the world come September 10th?
I mean, we're gonna need all the luck and juju we can get. I like all that stuff, but Sean is willing to die in there, and you hear that, and it's not cliche. Like you hear people, I'm willing to die in there. that dude is absolutely willing to die in there. He's a juggernaut. He moves forward. He's awkward. Punches come from different angles, but there's a willingness and a tenacity to him that I get to see every day in the gym, and it's forged in the gym. It's forged in the way that he spars and his lifestyle. He'll fight and spar all the way up until the week of the fight, the day of the fight. Even the guy's crazy. The guy's crazy. So we have our work cut out for us. We're well aware of that. But if there's a style of fighter that can give Izzy problems and give him issues, it's definitely Sean Strickland.
For sure. Well, look, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today, man. We always appreciate when you can give us some time. Wishing you all the best in the lead up to UFC 293, man, and we're definitely going to have to meet up in person down there.
Yeah, man, definitely, bro. Please. And it's always great. I appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate all the love you guys have given me over the years as well.
Awesome. No problem at all, Eric. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
See you, man.
See you then. Bye.
Later.